Good morning, everyone. How's it going? Welcome back here to a Tuesday morning, 10:23 a.m. California time here, October 21st, 2025. Latest activity here shows a 1.2 earthquake across the southern Oklahoma area, it looks like. See where that's at, maybe a query blast. That's what the USGS is showing here. For a little 1.3, some activity stirring up out in the Texas oil fields as well. Let's go ahead and take a look here into the Pacific Northwest, see what's going on. I know there's some earthquake activity showing up north of Washington region. It may be this one up here, a little three-pointer. USGS reporting that as a 2.9. Into the Vancouver Island ranges there north of Victoria. Handful of other earthquakes out there across the Pacific Northwest. Of course, yesterday and over the last couple weeks or so, maybe the last 3 weeks, we've seen quite a bit of tremor activity up here underneath the region. I'll show you guys just the last month of consistent slow slip events there across that area of the Cascadia subduction zone. Pretty significant number, up around 12,235. A bunch up here. Kind of worked it started down south here, south of Seattle, and eventually worked its way north to where it's coming to somewhat of an end in terms of the tremor counts out here, and normally it will do that. It seems like every 18 months or so we get this type of event going on underneath the area. A little bit down there across southern end, of course. During the summertime, it seemed like most of the slow slip events were down here across Northern California and the southern coast of Oregon. And of course, what does it all mean? Well, it just means that we're continuing to build stress out here along the Cascadia. That's how the stress accumulates up at the locked area, as the Juan de Fuca plate here as a whole being shoved down underneath this area of the North American plate. Well, you get these tremors. They're not volcanic tremors, but they're slow slip events, and they're pretty much like a low vibrational frequency that's being picked up by super sensitive equipment. And it's not an earthquake, not a sudden release of earthquake of built up energy, but a more or less like a, oh man, I can't think of the word here. It's a slow movement between the plates there, not locking up, but obviously a sign of further shoving down the Juan de Fuca plate underneath the area. And of course that builds up strain up along the Cascadia here. If we go back and show you guys some of the GPS measurements out here, I do like to check this on occasion because it gives us a good general idea of how the land is lifting up out here, obviously due because of the stress, not because of magma accumulation, that's for sure, but because of the interaction of the North American and the Juan de Fuca plate here. This is the vertical displacement there around Brookings, Oregon. Of course, this has been going up since, I'm assuming, 1700 when the last big earthquake struck out here. No telling, how many feet of strain are built up. I do know, though, when we do have that next Cascadia earthquake, that land out there across the coast, Northern California up through Washington will definitely drop and, kind of rebound a little bit because it's been building up. It's been lifting up out here. That's a sign of strain along a major subduction zone. That's just what happens. And eventually, like I say, no telling when we could see a big event out here. We just got to be prepared. A couple smaller quakes there across Northern California as well. Let's see what we got going on. The majority of these here from yesterday around Mount St. Helens. I do want to double check this here real quick, see what we have today for the latest data. I'll pull up this seismogram here. It's a recorded view of the last 24 hours or so. The amplitudes on the graph here are decent. This is what I would love to see across, every single seismograph station that I view. It's not overblown. It's not under amplitude there. It's perfect. So at this level, you can see a lot of these smaller spikes out here. Those are very small earthquakes, and there's been a number of them. The USGS, I believe, only showing a fraction of them around this area. But Mount St. Helens here has been just one area of some earthquake activity here recently. Look at the last 30 days. This is just what they're reporting. 67 earthquakes up there around Mount St. Helens. Nothing big, but a mixed bag of deeper activity, probably around the magma chamber, and also some surface quakes up there. Of course, Mount Rainier up north there, showing less, but back in July and August, this thing was littered with a whole bunch of earthquakes. And that's another area that's still seeing some earthquake activity. Nothing showing up on the map there, but we can look back here, go to the recorded seismogram viewers here of Mount Rainier, and see what we have today. A couple smaller quakes there. Some of these may be ice quakes, but there's still some small earthquake activity. Nothing of any elevated movement for now. And that little one-pointer, that's outside of Redding area, about 8 miles deep and underneath this region. Bay Area, a couple earthquakes there from yesterday. Man, it's a little odd out here for California right now. Couple earthquakes. What do we got? 9:58. Did this one just pop up, or was it here? That is right around the Parkfield section of the San Andreas Fault. Let's see what we got here. Very close to the, yeah, it actually looks like it is on the Parkfield section. This area is locked and should produce a 6.0 earthquake here. Now, the reason why I say that, because they have regular intervals. This specific fault area, this section of the plate boundary, sees a 6-pointer every 20 to 22 years. So we're at 21 years right now. 2004 is when that last struck. So that's probably getting close. The unfortunate thing here is that there's a probability of the next 6-pointer triggering the southern branch there of the San Andreas Fault because of the amount of strain that's been building up here since the last big one along the plate boundary. Highly likely. No one knows exactly when it's going to happen, but it's coming. It's definitely in the future here. 2 earthquakes there from Yellowstone yesterday, but a lot of yesterday activity. But I do want to double check here, see if there's anything maybe not being reported. Yeah, it looks pretty quiet out there across that area of Yellowstone National Park. We'll check out the YML station as well. Really not a whole lot going on. Just some wind noise probably from yesterday about earthquake activity. Just 2 events there from yesterday. Really nothing big going on across Yellowstone. Oil fields, as I mentioned, they're still just kicking up earthquake activity. There's a little earthquake there around New Jersey from yesterday. A little quiet out here along the North American region for now. As far as any newer activity goes on the globe, white color rings indicating the newer activity. The red, darker color rings indicating older activity from yesterday, or with, getting close to that 24-hour period here. Notice on the map, though, we got another deep earthquake here. That, man, that almost looks like it's down there into the deep into the Philippine Trench. Let me see. This one right here. That's a deep one. That one stirred up about 4:30 in the morning, my time, for a 4.5, 347 miles deep. Now, there's a number of fault systems around here, but looking at this, more than likely, it's going to be associated here with the Philippine Trench. That's about the only area I can think of to see that deep of an earthquake. And, of course, with the amount of earthquake activity that's been stirring up out here along the Philippine Trench, that it's just more of a concern to keep an eye on that area. Yesterday had a number of deep earthquakes in the region as well. No major surface adjustment taking place overnight, but I guarantee you the strain is definitely building up here across that area of the subduction zone. Had that 7-pointer, number of 6s working their way up the Philippine Trench. Had a pretty good cluster over here previous to that activity here. So a little concern here, the absence of larger activity further up north. So watch that. There's a deep earthquake today. Of course, the Philippine Trench here extends down here as well. Further up north, there's that super deep quake into the Nankai Trough. It's another, got 2 deep earthquakes and major subduction zones out here. Nothing new following this event yesterday. Again, that's deep into this area. Here's the Nankai Trough, 5 segments. Subduction zone interface begins here. They can get big megaquakes out here. And in fact, this is the area that the Japanese Meteorological Agency put out a megaquake warning for last year. It never happened, but there was a swarm of activity all around it, increasing the likelihood of seeing a bigger event. The amount of time that has passed since we've seen a big earthquake out here. And nothing happened last year, but then again, earlier this year, we had a big old swarm out here with some periodic earthquake activity within the Nankai Trough as well. So this could be getting close here. 1944, that's technically a while ago in terms of geology speaking. But this area doesn't take hundreds of years to build up strain. There's a major elevated high slip rate across this area. So we could see that kick up here at any time. Further up along the Kuril-Kamchatka, number of earthquakes there from yesterday, but what's going on out here? A lot of yesterday events there, aside from a couple newer ones there around the Philippines. I guess we got some new activity underneath North Island there. There's a 4.7 earthquake. Let's see, USGS. Oh, come on. Really not reporting that? That's a 4.7. That should easily be above the 4.5 threshold. Let me go over here to the GeoNet servers here. See what's going on. 4.7. Are these guys not reporting it? Let's go over here to the maybe it was just not felt. There's a 4.7. Okay, so 51 minutes ago, underneath North Island, that's 279 kilometers deep. That's super deep. And I do know what's out here. That's going to be right about this area. So you got the subduction zone, the northern end here of the Hikurangi. That's just one of many subduction zones around the planet that have big time potential, but lacking any recent large-scale movement. That tells us right there that we could be living in a time where that may be part of our life, dealing with a bigger earthquake out there. It's a pretty deep one. So keep an eye there, North Island, New Zealand. It does look like that's the most recent earthquake there. Some older activity north. South America area fairly active today as well. Quite a few deep earthquakes in the Peru-Chile Trench. Also some shallower quakes here along the Chile area. USGS reporting a handful of these earthquakes here, but there's a lot. That's why the Earthquake 3D globe here is a combination. I can add many different feeds here, and to keep it simplified and not overdone, I just include the 2.5 in the last 24 hours for the EMSC, which shows a lot of the smaller quake activity. Otherwise, you just see one earthquake here, maybe none up here. But it also includes the USGS last 24 hours. I can pull back the last 7 days and go down to a magnitude 1, but I have that set here to not do so. Otherwise, you end up with that many ones here, and it looks a little crazy. It shows all the microquake activity there across California. So I try to keep it around the 2.5, 2.3, somewhere around there. It is showing a 1.0 now because I went down to that level. And of course, I can go back, a lot of time as well. But, who wants to look at that? That's just a lot of activity, right? I mean, what's going on? Well, a whole lot if you look at the big picture. But let's just keep it simplified here. Last 24 hours so we can see what's going on. And just watch for some larger movement over here. I do think we got to watch this area because of all the deeper quakes triggering into the region of the Philippines south here, and also that deeper quake up into the Nankai Trough, which, where'd that go? There we go. I guess we got to keep it at about like that. Maybe. See, I need it. It's a little glitchy, but anyway. Because this quake here is from yesterday, but it's not quite 24 hours here. It does look like here in a couple hours that'll drop off, but so there's your last 24 hours of data, which is still pretty fairly significant. That almost seems like it's a little bit more. Hold on. There we go. Sometimes I can be a perfectionist. I have to have, it's like if I got a picture on the wall that's a little crooked, that's got to be straight. Why, I don't know. It's just built into my mind that way. All right, let's see what else we have here on the globe. See, Alaska, not a whole lot going on up there right now. South America's noted a bunch down south. Poland area, 4.4. That's the second earthquake up here in the last week or so in the same area. If you look, they had a 4.5 just a couple days ago in this area, and a more recent 4.5 this morning. So there's definitely some activity stirring up out here. But if you look here, historically speaking, and of course what's being monitored or what's being reported, they have seen quite a few 4s out here historically, 4.5 and above. Magnitudes of 5.0 to 6.0 maybe look possible out here according to the legend here, but definitely not uncommon to see earthquake activity out there around Poland. It has been pretty active regionally out here in the last couple days. There's a 5-pointer out, let's see where that's at, Iran region. Fairly recent, just about 1 o'clock this morning as well. So, but like I said, it's been elevated. I've definitely noticed an uptick in larger movement out here and more broad scale activity than normal, and it looks like that is continuing today as well. Bunch of activity north here of Iceland. Some movement there outside of Nepal. Looks like a little swarm of activity over here. Northern India region around the Himalayas. So we'll just kind of watch this. And see, now I got all the deeper activity there on the map from yesterday. And that, it does look like it needs to be on there. Sometimes this here, oops, what am I doing here? It's not Monday. I can't do that. Can't make mistakes on a Tuesday. I guess you can, right? Anyway, watch this area, folks. Space weather activity. Let's go take a look here real quick at the space weather. See what we got going on today. Man, look at that. Pretty much flatlined. We're at a C 1.0, but look at that level. We lost all of our instability. All that sizzling and crackling on the solar flare chart has disappeared because of those two active areas they're pretty active. A number of C flares and M flares. They're no longer visible on the Earth-facing side of the sun. The sunspots that we do have here are stable. Looking at the magnetogram here, which is recent but not completely recent, shows a number of sunspots out here. But this could be, you could have 100 of these type of sunspots and there wouldn't be anything going on. So you have to have that magnetic complexity here, and there's really not a whole lot going on with any of these sunspots. This one up here looks like it is starting to decay. There's a newer region here, center disk of the sun, but right now I don't see anything impressive with that as far as development goes. Flare threat will remain low, 25% chance there for M flare. I'm just showing a 1% chance for X flare because there's just not a whole lot going on there. No major roars there in the forecast. Things pretty quiet. Is that why we're not seeing earthquake activity? Who knows? I mean, obviously, it's something I've been talking about here recently, and quite a few other channels out here, is that when we have a massive coronal hole facing us, center disk lined up perfectly with Earth, those magnetic lines shoot out from the sun. They don't loop back in on themselves like a sunspot would do, but they're magnetic lines shooting straight out, directed at Earth. And it seems like the last couple times here, earthquake activity is really ramped up when those are facing us. We don't have anything facing us, one down south, one up north. That huge section is much further out there on the western limb. But when it was back over here, man, we've seen a lot of activity stirring up around the Philippines and elsewhere around the planet. So just kind of, it's an interesting, whether it's a coincidence or not, I'm keeping a tally. A lot of folks keeping tallies there. And a lot of folks actually firmly believe that that's a direct relation to earthquake activity when those coronal holes come around. Right now, no more coronal holes. I don't see it, so we'll see how earthquake activity behaves. Yeah, it's still pretty active out there right now. Nothing large, but we are definitely getting some deeper activity around the region. Pretty clustered out here, I would say, and that's still just bugging me because I don't think it needs to be. I guess I could do this, huh? That way I'm not. Or does that even work? It does to an extent. All right. Maybe I'll use that instead of messing with this, because the mouse can kind of catch a little bit. All right, asteroid activity. I don't see anything flying through the air. That's probably a good thing. Next close approach asteroids here, according to the GPL NASA.gov website. Got this one coming in today, 886,000 miles, which is fairly far away, 63 foot. Everything else, millions of miles away out there, so I don't see anything of close proximity. And by the way, I've had a couple people asking me about a comet. Well, that comet is, you can see these comets. I think there's two of them. One late at night, well, before completely it goes dark. You can see that one on the western horizon. The other one in the northeastern sky, early in the morning before sunrise. Those are way far away. I mean, I've seen a couple posts here claiming that the comet is going to come closer than the Earth and Moon distance. Could you imagine how beautiful that would look? You would probably see that in the daytime. That is completely fake and false. Okay? When I see something that is just made up, I'll call it like I see it, and that is completely fake. So if you see that floating around Facebook, that there's a comet going to come closer to the Earth than the Moon, and it's supposed to happen today, that thing is way out there, millions of miles away, and it's way further than the Moon. Anyway, that's not going to get into that. But yeah, that's fake. Just be cautious what you read out there, guys. I always verify all my information. All my information is from factual sources, not make-believe, and nothing AI on this channel ever. Marginal risk for some severe weather, it looks like around Detroit. That is mainly due, well, a little bit of wind out there. So for the wind chime lovers, well, there you go. Going to hear those. Well, it's always windy out there, isn't it? Around the Great Lakes area. But maybe extra windy today with some of those storms. Now, looking at the weather model here, we still got a decent system coming into the Pacific Northwest. Rainfall looks a little bit heavier with the GFS run today for Northern California. Oregon's going to get the brunt of it, I think. And then the secondary system here, a little bit of difference there across Northern California from the GFS to the ECMWF model. The ECMWF model, there's the first storm, Northern California getting some rain, and then the second storm behind that looks to be a little bit wetter in terms of intensity. The GFS model, though, backing off on this type of scenario. But we'll have to watch that because there's quite a bit of heavy rainfall in that on the 26th there of Sunday. This would be early Sunday morning. And that's going to be the second storm system there. GFS not showing so much, but that can bring some impressive rainfall totals there if that holds true. Really no tropical systems out there. I mean, I would say it's been a decent year, in terms of not seeing any significant damage or any hurricanes coming in here. That is good. Looking out and about long-term models, these are way out here. Look at the cool spell coming in right now for the Great Lakes area. Here's our big storm out there across the Pacific Northwest, Northern California. Yeah, this is your typical fall pattern right here, getting all that cooler air coming down from the north. That's going to be a good one. I do not like this ridging out there across the west coast, so hopefully that changes. This is the first week of November. So going to be warmer than average, cooler than average out there east of the Rockies, but things are definitely mixing up out here. I don't want to see any dominant high pressure out here across the west coast because that's not what we need. All right, double checking the seismograph stations here. All the live ones look pretty quiet. I don't see anything really showing up on them right now. So, and the largest event, let's see what we got here so far. It's going to go to a 5.1 from yesterday in Japan. That's going to be that super deep earthquake there, the Nankai Trough. So far today after midnight, though, 5.0 in Iran. Just kind of this is a very minimal day in terms of larger magnitudes. This is the majority. The majority of these 5-pointers are from yesterday. So a little quiet out here so far today in terms of larger movement. That may stir up, though. We'll just have to keep an eye on things. Here's the 4.2, 4.3 coming in right now. Myanmar area, it looks like. Up here along the plate boundary. I think that's where that 7-pointer struck here earlier this year. All right, I'm out of here, folks. Have yourself a wonderful afternoon, morning, evening, depending on where you're at. I do appreciate everyone tuning in. And we'll be back out here a little bit later on this afternoon, or evening, I should say, for the Tuesday night update. Unless something major happens, folks. We try to cover earthquakes here, 6.0 and above globally. If there's like a 5 or 4-pointer in New York, that's something we're definitely going to jump on because it's unusual to see that type of movement. 4 or 5-pointer out there across California. They can happen, but it's heavily populated, and a lot of people want to know what's going on, so we cover that as well. But if there's like a 4-pointer in Papua New Guinea, it's always happening out there. 4-pointer in Japan, really, it happens, seems like every day out there. But deeper quakes, obviously happening around the region, and they've been happening in this area right here. That makes me think that there's something else bigger brewing around the region. So watch that today. Have a good one. We'll see you guys out here a little bit later on. Stay safe.